And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of Doing the Work, the post-game show where yesterday your number eight ranked Indiana Hoosiers beat Western Michigan 67 to 57. I am your host, Kathy Amos, here with Coach Jeff Marlow, and we'll break the game all down for you on this edition of Doing the Work, the new show on the Back Home Network that's dedicated to covering Indiana women's basketball. And first, well, let's start the show how we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. So for me yesterday, I guess the banner moment was really the entire third quarter. I think for the ladies, it was clearly not the prettiest game they've played this year. They definitely didn't have the focus we have seen from them in other games, but that third quarter really highlights how even without playing their best ball, they really I think buckled down and showed us the grit that they had. And specifically at the 6 minute mark, we had Grace Berger who took the ball, drove down the lane for 2 points, then hustled back on the other end, stole the ball, ran down the floor, and got the ball down to Mac, who then scored again. This really helped push our lead, and there were several plays there in that third quarter. I think really highlighted the grit that the ladies were playing with, and specifically their defense that quarter. I think was a highlight for me because they didn't allow a single point until under 4 minutes to go in that third quarter. So for me, the banner moment was really that third quarter, specifically highlighting that play from Grace and her toughness on offense, and then getting back down on the other end to play some great defense. So, as always, our banner moment today is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. They are now in their fifth season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their first as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. And in case you missed it, Home Field recently did do a brand refresh of most of their IU collection, bringing their extensive IU collection to more than 40 items. They also have vintage apparel for more than 120 colleges and universities across the country. So there truly is something for almost everyone at Home Field. And all of their comfortable, high quality shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies can be yours with 15% off using the code HOME for your first time purchase. And don't worry, if you haven't gotten all your holiday shopping in yet, we're confident, even though it may not arrive in time for Christmas, your loved one would still love a Home Field Apparel item you get them, even if it's a little late. So go to homefieldapparel.com today and start planning ahead. And once again, that website is homefieldapparel.com, and you can wear one for the team. Okay, well, let's move the ball now and find our open player and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team, which is Coach Jeff here. And we're going to kick it over to him for Coach's Corner.
Well, I think I'll kind of preface the first thing here, Kathy, is just a week of finals. I don't want to make excuses for them. And Coach Moore didn't make many excuses in the post game yesterday. She was not very pleased with the effort, especially on the defensive end. But I do think there is something to it. I just think when your focus is on finals, you're not concentrating on basketball as much. And I know they're scholarship athletes, but they also are having to take time away. Practices get moved around, practices get, and such. So you're not quite in the routine you have normally. And so, and then also will say that it kind of reminded me a little bit, as I talked about on the men's postgame show Saturday. Sometimes when you're a good team, you have to find a way to win when you don't have your A game. And yesterday, they obviously didn't have their A game. It may be a C game by their standard, but maybe not. Maybe a little lower if you take Coach Moore, for example. But you found a way to win. At one point, it was a 6-point game at the half. You pushed it out to 20 at one point in the third quarter to really get control of the game. But I think, they also, have to understand that a team like Western Michigan, who was 5-3 coming in, they'd won, I believe, 5 in a row, or no, 6-3. Sorry, they were 6-2. Sorry, 6-2 coming in. They're 6-3 now. If you get the record right, but they'd won 5 in a row, and they saw the IU women at number 10, and it puts a target on their back. That's a chance for Western Michigan to kind of make a season by knocking off a top 10 team on the road who may not be quite ready to play. And that was one of the things I kind of saw was just, especially in the first half, defensively, I saw some breakdowns that I hadn't seen from this team for a while. 2 people guarding 1, or two people really, or nobody guarding the ball, two people guarding the ball, and then other times where nobody was guarding the ball and a couple pointing like you got. So just there was some real communication breakdown yesterday I hadn't seen in a while, and I'm sure as I posted in the community today, I will imagine there was a brutal film session today from Coach Moore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. All right. Well, coming up as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's victory over Western Michigan, we will point out yesterday's meaningful moments you might have missed, and then we will go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You are listening to Doing the Work. You're listening to the Doing the Work IU post-game show. Again, I'm Kathy Amos, your host for tonight, and I'm here with Coach Jeff Marlow, and we're breaking down our win against Western Michigan from yesterday. So let's dive into some meaningful moments that you might have missed. And maybe, Jeff, I'll kick it over to you first and see which ones you might like to highlight.
Well, I'll kind of go back to yours for a second when you were talking about the banner moment. There in the second half, Grace Berger railed off 7 straight points. From the time it was 35-27 till it was 44-27, I believe it was, if I counted right. Great, from 30, it was 35-27 after Mac made a layup. Grace scored the next 7 points to make it 42-27. And that really kind of probably was where the game really got put away. But to me, I really wanted to go back to the whole thing really began at the end of the first half. It was 29-25 with 2 minutes to go in the half. And IU from the one, and then it was 29-27 with 1:38 to go. That was the last basket at 1:38 by Western Michigan. IU got the last 2 baskets of that quarter, and then would proceed to go on an 18-0 run over the course of that time. And by time-wise, if I'm doing the math right, that was 7 minutes and 32 seconds of game time that they held Western Michigan without a point. And that's, I think, what IU fans of this women's team have come to be ready for, is that defensive tenacity. And so they right there for the last couple of minutes of the first half and for about the first 5.5 minutes or so of the second half, they got really locked in on the defensive end, and they showed what they're capable of. And again, as Ari kind of pointed out in the community, and Ari pointed out here in the live chat with the chat mob, it was not their best effort. It was not a typical IU women's effort, but that 7.5 minutes was some of the best basketball you can see from them, or at least you can see it shows you what they can do defensively.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that highlight again, they didn't allow a point in the third quarter until under 4 minutes left in that quarter. So well over 6 minutes. And if you go back to that first half, as you point out, it was a long stretch. They didn't allow a point. One moment I actually want to point out, one of the things we have been talking about a lot about this team is their bench play. So I'm going to go back to the first quarter with about 5 minutes or so left in that first quarter. Kiandra Brown was put in, who played quite a bit actually in this game yesterday. And she came in and got a huge rebound off of a missed throw and put it back in for 2 points for her. And I actually thought Kiandra's play yesterday, for the most part, was actually pretty solid compared to what we have been seeing. And I wrote down at that point, are we going to really see something good from our bench this time? And I actually thought the bench did pretty well. They ended up with 11 points and 9 of those from Kiandra Brown. I thought that was fantastic, but not just the points. She was 1 point away if she wouldn't have missed some of her free throws she missed, which we can talk about. She had 10 rebounds. She missed a double-double by 1 point. So I thought Kiandra Brown was really just fairly solid, at least with her rebounding and some of the points that she added in. At the half, our bench had 8 points of our 33 that we had. So, which is something we have not seen, I think, from this team. The other meaningful moment from Kiandra, though, is to your points on the communication did not seem there. There were numerous times, especially when she was first put in that first quarter, where you could see she was not sure where she was supposed to go on defense. In fact, at one point, she had to go over to the bench and ask the coach who she was supposed to be guarding, because she kept saying, like, oh, number 3, or is it this number? And she really did seem a little lost on defense when she first got in. But I think the thing she contributed between her rebounds, especially, were really on point for her yesterday.
Well, I think you raised some really good points, and I'm not going to say too much about Kiandra just because I think we're going to talk about her a little bit later in the show. But it was nice to see production from Kiandra today. When we've seen Kiandra earlier in the season, it seems like she's doing good things, but as we've kind of pointed out in some of the men's shows, they may not be things that show up in the stat sheet. And that's kind of where Kiandra had been, playing, but you need some production in the stat line. And like I said in a previous episode, when I was coaching, we would talk about, we want crooked numbers. We need 2s and 3s, 4s, those types of things in the stat column. And Kiandra did that yesterday. I still think a little bit of and maybe I'll say it for a little bit, but still only went 3 deep on the bench. And so I would have thought this would have been, and again, maybe she had the plan to do it, but it didn't work out that way. I would have thought this would be a game where Coach Moore would have tried to get a little deeper into the bench, but with the way the game was progressing, that might have taken it away from her. And one of the other things I really thought was meaningful, Kathy, and I'm not trying to get too deep into stats, was for as sluggishly as we played, we still controlled the glass. I mean, we almost doubled up them in rebounds. So to me, while it was by no means a very good, as Coach Moore said, effort, there were some things that at least showed up in the stats that looked pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that rebounding number, before we get into the numbers too deep, I think it just showed their grittiness of toughing out a win, even when they were at their C game, not their A game. Any other moments, Jeff, that you want to talk about from the game?
I think also, though, the kind of disappointing in the fourth quarter and just the fact that we had a 20-point lead. And I think I was trying to go back and look at the stat, my notes here real quick. At one point, it was 60-43 with 6:55 to go, and it ends up 67-57. So they, we didn't put them. We didn't. That's when I had a veteran team, and I'm sure that's part of the frustration with Coach Moore. You don't want to let a team like Western Michigan get it back to 10 when you had it 17. Make it 20. Make it 23. And I know that's just the coach in me, but I think that comes back to showing just they really were lacking focus and sluggish.
Yeah, I agree. That whole fourth quarter, I was the same, disappointed, and they really let Western Michigan go on a run. And in fact, what I think stemmed it was somewhere in about a 5-minute mark or so, Lexi had a cross-court pass over to Nikki, who shot a 3 and made a 3, and it seemed to kind of calm things down. We never quite got back to that. I think we were up to 22 points at one time in the third quarter at their highest lead, and obviously ended up winning by 10, which is still a sound margin. But I'm with you. And to your point on the bench, we did go 3 deep, but Grace Wagner only played 2 minutes. So for all intents and purposes, we really only went 2 deep. Right. Yeah. So,
and I will say this, and Ari's pointed this out in the chat, and I caught a little bit of it in Coach Moore's postgame. Lexa didn't play very well. Lex really struggled. She was, and I think you see just how valuable Lexa Golby's contributions are, especially on the defensive end. And that's where Coach Moore was really upset with the effort on the whole team. But she did not seem to be very happy with Lex's performance and all around, and especially on the defensive end, it seems like. And I think that's something that tells us just how valuable, even though we don't think of Alexa Golby as one of the main cogs because she doesn't do a lot of scoring. I think it shows you just how valuable her contributions are to this team.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, any additional storylines you want to hit at this point?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, same for me. All right, well, next on Doing the Work, we'll hand out our game balls and our Hoosier Hustle Award, and we'll talk about lingering questions. But before that, we'll jump into some numbers. You're listening to Doing the Work. I use Postgame show for women's basketball. Okay, so Jeff, let's go ahead and dive into some of the moments, numbers here. So you want to go first and pick out one that you want to talk about, and maybe we can just go back and forth.
Well, let's do that. I'll start out with a negative. And this is not a very good 3-point shooting team. They're not going to live and die on the 3. But they were 2 for 16 yesterday. That's 13%, 12.5 if you want to be specific.
Yeah.
Again, I know Western Michigan wasn't very good, and I know we've pointed this out earlier. But even against some of the better teams where they don't always have their A effort, you can't shoot 2 for 16. You can still win B effort, C effort, or B, I shouldn't say effort, B game or C game, but you got to make up for some of that with shooting the ball a little better. And they didn't shoot very well at all. They were under 40% for the game and only 2 for 16 from three.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I think what we're at halftime, we were 1 of 8 and then ended up 2 of 16. So again, we had a game like this earlier. I think it might have been the NC State game. It was exactly the same, right? Where we had 1 and 1, and that was all we just could seem to manage to knock down. And I think that really hurt us. And then the rebounding, which you started to touch on, is the one I really wanted to bring up as well. We did win the battle 29-47. In terms of total rebounds. I think the unfortunate thing is that because of all of our missed shots, a lot of those rebounds were offensive rebounds. So, and they were able to convert those into 11 second chance points. So I think they all kind of flow together there in terms of rebounding and showing our grittiness on the board there again. So what's another number you'd like to talk about?
Well, one that I'll point out that was a positive, 14 assists on 23 made baskets. And we were moving the ball. I'll stick with the kind of the team stats here first. 14, like I said, 14 assists on 23 made baskets. That's kind of the IU women's program that you've seen under Terry Morin, and especially with this group of the 5 vets and such. And they only had 11 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
That was so they were positive on the assist to turnover ratio. But even with all that, that's the part that was frustrating kind of watching the game, that you would see the glimpses of where they had it and they just weren't sustaining it for very long at all and didn't shoot very well. But it just shows you when they move the ball and can knock down shots, which is the second part of it, they are so much fun to watch and they have such a high ceiling.
Yeah. If we could have gotten 4 quarters like that third quarter, I think we would have had another repeat of how fantastic that Ohio State game was. To me, that was probably their best game. Another number I think I'll point out as a team, which will lead me and probably into some of our individual stats, but is points in the paint. We again, just I think it shows again, good things come to this team, which we won 22-38. But good things come for the team when they go through the paint, specifically Mackenzie Holmes. So Mac, again, with I think a very, very strong performance with 17 points, but she had 19 of those 47 total rebounds that we had. And I just thought that she again was very gritty and did the things that we are really coming to expect from Mackenzie.
Yeah, and with Nick or with Mackenzie, I think I saw today in the notes on IUHoosier.com, it was the best rebounding performance since Alexis Gassian in 2016, I believe. So it's been a few years since somebody had that kind of rebounding game. I'm going to go to Allie Pattberg. I'll kind of go individual stats here with Allie Pattberg. Allie did not shoot it great. She was 3 for 9, 0 for 4 from distance, but she finished with 13 points because she was one of the few who was actually really good at the line. She was 7 for 10 at the line, but she also had 4 rebounds and 6 assists to go with only 2 turnovers. So I thought Allie made up for a little bit of Alexis' slow day, and from the standpoint of she was doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but a little bit, 6 of those, so almost half of the team's assists from Allie. Yep. So again, just showing her leadership on the floor there. So I really enjoyed what I saw from her as well. I think we touched already some on the bench. Grace Wagner, 2 minutes and really didn't add a whole lot there. I know the last time one of the lingering questions we were wondering about was her getting open. It was really hard to see on the TV feed. Big Ten Plus, for those of you who have not enjoyed a Big Ten Plus production, is something else. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
There was one earlier this year I watched, though, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I saw one too. I can't remember which one it was either, but it was just not as bad. But they love to zoom in on just the the ball. And
Yeah.
so then you can't see the rest of the court. So it was hard to tell if Grace ever got open or not.
And she was only in for 2
But
minutes.
she was only in for 2 minutes. So
And,
it's really hard to know.
and if Kathy, if you don't mind, I'll go. The other stat, and again, I'm not trying to point out all negatives here, but 19 of 29 at the line. In a tournament game where we want this team to be at the end of the year, probably can't be 9. I mean, obviously you're not going to play, hopefully, that sluggish anyway, but you can't be 19 of 29 at the line. 65%. They got to find a way to be a little more consistent at the line. As I mentioned, Allie was 7 for 10, Grace 2 for 3. Mackenzie 3 for 4, and Kiandra was 7 for 10, but it just 65% is not quite good enough.
No, I would absolutely agree with that. You'd like to see them somewhere well north of 70, which is I think what we've seen more out of them. The last, I think, stat that I really wanted to talk about actually is layups. And again, it kind of goes into what we've alluded to with the fact that we out rebounded them. I again think that was in part because of the missed shots that we had, specifically layups. We were 17 of 32 on layups. And I that to me was just very painful. There was, I can't remember which quarter it was at this point, but there was at one point Mac got the ball down low and she missed 3 point blank shots to the bucket there. And I think she finally ended up getting fouled on the third rebound. So there was a reason why I think she had her 19 rebounds, but it wasn't always positive, but at least she got them.
I was just going to say, sometimes as a coach, when we'd watch the film and break it down, I'd look at kids and kind of go, hey, padding the stats or what? Sometimes you get that feeling. The other stat I'll point out here, Kathy, again, was as sluggish as we as fans thought, and that Coach Morin thought, especially on the defensive end, they actually won the fast break points 12-4. So they found a couple of times, they found a few occasions to be able to get out and transition and get some fast break points.
Yeah, absolutely. So good positive to end on, unless you had any other stats.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for all of you listening live and for afterwards as well. But you're listening to Doing the Work, the IU post-game show. And Jeff, Marlow and I are here breaking down our win against Western Michigan from yesterday. So I think now we'll move on to handing out our game ball and our Hoosier Hustle Award, and then we'll wrap it up with any lingering questions. So if you are listening live and you're in the chat, Mom, start thinking about if you have any lingering questions you want to throw in the chat. We will also look ahead to our next opponent and upcoming schedule, but you're listening to Doing the Work. You can catch us live immediately following most IU women's post game, behind most women's games, and you can find us at assemblycall.com. Also, make sure to sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. We now have over 9,000 of your fellow IU fans subscribed to it, and you can join for free today at join.assemblycall.com. And I'm here with Kathy Amos, here with Jeff Marlow, breaking down our win over Western Michigan from yesterday. Okay, with that, we'll go right into our game ball. So, Jeff, I'll let you go first. Who gets your game ball for yesterday?
Well, real quick, I'll let our fans know who are watching us in the chat mob or will be listening to us as quick as we can get this up in the podcast. We will be live tomorrow night after the game. So tomorrow night will be the same night as far as we go. And we want to thank, as we said, thank everybody before I give the game ball. Quang says, wants to thank us for doing it. Hey, we're enjoying it. And we're glad that the women can get some notoriety and some appreciation from the fans out there. Spread the word to your friends. Spread the word and let them know that we're doing it. I think you and Kathy are going to agree on this. I'm going to go with Mackenzie Holmes. It's hard to go against a kid that got 17 points and 19 rebounds and 4 blocks. So pretty simple say I'm going to go with Mackenzie Holmes as my player of the game. Yeah,
100% agree. So I totally have Mackenzie down as well. Again, I know 19 rebounds sounds crazy. She was also voted to the honor roll Big Ten team this week. Is that what they called it?
Player of the week honor roll, something like that.
Yeah, that was a new one for me. But yeah, for me, game ball as well. So since we've been doing the show this year, that takes Mac up to 3 of the game balls, and Nicole had one earlier. So now it is time for our Hoosier Hustle Award, and it is sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. Again, that's evansvillesecurityservices.com. All right. Off to our Hustle Awards. Do you want to go first again?
You go first since I took the player
Okay.
game of the game.
All right, I am actually going to give my Real Hustle Award to Kiandra Brown. I think we've been pretty critical of the bench play this year, and I thought she came in and gave us some really solid minutes this game. Again, she missed a double with one free throw that would have gotten her. She played a good solid 15 minutes. Again, maybe a few times lost on defense, but to me, I think that the 9 points and especially those 10 rebounds that she got for the team really helped get us through that first half. How about for you?
I'm going to go Kiandra Brown as well. That was my pick pretty much all along. When I saw the game stats for after the game last night and watched it again today, it was really nice to see Kiandra come out there and have a good effort. Now, I will say as I went through it, a part of me wanted to kind of lean toward an Allie Pattberg or a Grace Berger because they had good games also. And as we kind of mentioned on the men's post-game show on Saturday, when you get to having 2, 3, 4 people that you might be trying to have for your Hoosier Hustle Award, that's usually a good sign. Now, in this case, the game didn't go the way we wanted in terms of the effort, but I think I was going to lean toward Kiandra anyway, but then I saw Coach Moore's post-game comments, and she really singled out Kiandra for her hustle and effort. So I'm going to go Kiandra too.
Great. All right. Well, it's unanimous, and it looks like with our chat mob, we have some folks backing us up on that as well. So good job. Yay, yes. All right. So any other lingering storylines that you want to hit, Jeff, from the game?
No, the only lingering one right now is, Kathy, is we just do how deep are we? How deep is our bench? And I guess kind of maybe the other one for me, well, I'll stick with that one right now. The storyline for me is the 5 kids that we know they're carrying the load. You look at yesterday. Grace played 38 minutes. Allie played 37. Alexa played 36. Now, again, Coach Moore didn't seem to be very happy, but I'm sitting there thinking, well, I can find a way to show my unhappiness with your effort if by not giving you 36 minutes. But Nikki had 28. Mackenzie only had 29. So I do have some concerns. I know Coach Moore doesn't, but I just guess the old coach in me about amount of minutes you're asking of kids to play, especially as we get deeper into the Big Ten season.
Right. Absolutely. I'm hoping this isn't an opportunity lost in terms of getting our bench in there and giving our starters some rest, because again, 2 minutes from Grace Wagner really effectively didn't contribute, and so really we only had 2 other people playing besides our 5 starters. So still a lingering question is our bench play and how deep it is. The good news, at least for me, and the bench play this time was, while there were effectively only 2 of them playing, they did contribute 11 points, 11 rebounds, only 2 turnovers between the 2 of them. In fact, those were both from Chloe Moore McNeil. But I just thought in general it was fairly solid play, which just seemed to be a little bit lacking from them in the other few games that we've kind of highlighted. Okay, so let's preview our upcoming shows.
Real quick, Kathy, before we go, I think Quang has a lingering storyline or question here in the chat mob of 3-point shooting and amount and percent. And I think that's something that you have a concern there. This is not a team that probably should be a volume, in my opinion. I'd be interested to see your thoughts. I don't think they should be a volume 3-point shooting team. I don't think this is a team you want shooting 22, 25 threes a game. If they're hitting 6 out of 16, you probably don't worry too much about the 16 because you're making 38%. But when you're 2 of 16, it's probably a few too many. But so that's a fine line that in terms of the amount, but it's a team that has to find a way. And we've talked about this before. We talked a little bit about it in the community. For those who've been in the community last year, we kind of really started talking about the women a little bit more in the community, that it's been an issue for a while with this group. And it's one of the things I'm sure Coach Moore and the staff is trying to, it's probably a focus in recruiting, but they right now, they know, and Grace has mentioned in the Grace Berger show a couple of times, that they know they got to improve in this area. Well, that's easier said than done in the middle of the season. So I don't know exactly what the amount should be. To me, it's more about the percentage. If you're hitting some, if you're hitting 3 out of 8, 3 out of 9, I can live with that ratio. 1 out of 8, that's not a good ratio.
Yeah, I agree. And I mentioned it already when I was talking about in our stats and the points in the paint and how we just seem to really do so much better when we go through the paint and play through Mackenzie Holmes. We really do. And I wouldn't even be as disappointed in those 3-pointers and 3-point shots that were taken, except that some of them were very early into the shot clock. And that was the one disappointment I had with Allie, actually. She was 0 for 4 from three-point. And I thought a couple of them were just, I even mentioned it. I was watching the game with my husband, Sean, and I mentioned to Sean, I said, it didn't even touch anyone else. She didn't even pass it to anyone else. She came down and maybe 10 seconds into the shot clock, she or 5 seconds in, put up a 3. And I saw her do that a couple of times. So to your point, not just the number 16 would be okay, but if you're only making 2 of them, and if you're doing it early into the shot clock, I think that's where is the downfall.
Yeah, and you point out Allie, Alexa was 0 for 4. So 2 of your starters were 0 for 8, and Grace was 0 for 1. So 0 for 9 from those 3. Luckily, Nikki hit the only 2. She was, I think, 2 for 5. One other storyline I'll point out here is something that was earlier in the chat mob about kids coming back, and Ari pointed this out in the community. He's pointed out kind of a little bit here in the chat mob. There was a media availability, I believe, earlier this or last week, where Coach Moore basically said that Allie Pattberg is the only one that can't come back. The super senior is out of eligibility. But the rest of them have eligibility, even the ones who were classified as seniors. So it'll be interesting to see who does make that. And that will be interesting for next year. But Grace Berger and Alexa Golbe, who are technically seniors, can come back.
Mm-hmm.
For next year. And so can Nikki, I believe, as well. Yeah. So those 3 seniors could all come back. And then you throw Mackenzie back with that, 4 returning starters, plus the 2 kids we've talked a lot about today on the bench. And then they're at least they've been very high on the recruiting class with, and I'm going to forget names here, just signed a girl out of Israel. The Bargesser girl out of Michigan, I'm a little more familiar with just because I see some things around this area from Michigan about some of the Michigan high school scene. But, so it's a pretty decent recruiting class. Right now, it's only a 3-person class, but
and then you have Peterson too.
Right, and got Peterson, who didn't play at all yesterday and hasn't really played much in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, and I wonder if part of that is if for Peterson is just a situation where she's stuck in a spot where there's too many vets in front of her, and Allie Pattberg, a Nicole, even to a certain degree, Grace Berger in front of her.
Yes. Oh, thanks, Ari. Lily Meister, hopefully I pronounced that correct, is one of them, and then Yarden Gerzon from Israel. Yep. Okay, thanks, Ari. All right, great. All right, so you are listening to Doing the Work, the IU post-game show dedicated to IU women's basketball. So let's talk a little bit real quick about our upcoming shows. So Jeff mentioned it earlier, and I'll repeat now. Our next post-game show is actually tomorrow on Tuesday, December 21st, after the Wright State's game. This is going to be a live show right after the game. The game is at 7 p.m. Eastern, unfortunately, again, on Big Ten Plus. So hopefully you have some subscription to it. And also just a reminder for our regular Thursday assembly call radio, there is no show this week, but the team will be live after the men's show on Wednesday against Northern Kentucky. And one last reminder as well to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel and use the promo code HOME, HOME, at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And remember, this is only your first order, so if you're going to go use that code, make sure you load up on a lot of stuff to take advantage of it. So. Okay, it is time for last call. So we'll go around the horn and see if we could each give some last thoughts on what we would like to talk about today.
You go first.
Okay, I will. So I would say, again, this was not a focused game, but it was a gritty win. It was better to win ugly than to lose pretty, right? That's how the phrase goes. So
that's my phrase I use.
Yep. So they didn't come out with great focus. I heard part of the post-game interview right afterwards on the radio feed with one of the assistant coaches, and he mentioned the lack of focus multiple times. But they found a way to win. And at the end of the day, a W is a W. And when we are disappointed in only a 10-point win, I think it shows you the quality of the team that we're watching. The really poor shooting really was outweighed by the great rebounds and the fact that they kept after it and hit those boards. And you know what? They have a quick turnaround. So they played yesterday on Sunday. They had today to, as you mentioned, really do a nice deep dive into that
Oh, I'm
film.
sure.
And yeah, and tomorrow right back at it. So they have hopefully it's fresh on some of the things the coaches have been hammering, and that when we play Wright State tomorrow, we'll see a completely refocused team. How about you?
Well, and the bad thing for the kids, I believe, now that that school's out with finals being done, I don't think there's any restrictions on about how long they can practice when there's no school. So since there's no classes, I think they kind of I think the 20 hours a week kind of goes away. So it's I'm sure they had a very lively. At least if I was reading between the lines what I saw from Coach Moore. I will say one thing too, real quick before. Ari pointed out there's a girl from Finland coming in too, so there's actually a 4-person class there. I'm going to hit on Wright State just a little bit, and I kind of say along the line, I just hope we get to keep playing. I hope the kids, both men and women, can keep playing. That with the COVID numbers starting to, we've seen a lot of games being canceled, and Wright State's coming off a situation where they had to forfeit 2 games. To Cleveland State and Purdue Fort Wayne in their league. I'm pretty sure those are league games for them because of their COVID issues. They won their last game. They just won a game, the last game they played, but before that they were 0-7. So they come in tomorrow 1-7. They're only averaging 62 a game, and they're giving up 69. So this should be a team that hopefully we can get right about, and also get a chance to maybe get a little deeper into the bench tomorrow as well. But I to go back to the game from yesterday, I think the coaches are really going to hammer on the focus, and I think we'll see a team come out tomorrow night with some laser focus and be ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay. Well, I think that will do it. So, again, if you want to see us do the show live and be part of our live chat, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that at youtube.com/assembly call. And don't forget, again, you can go there as well to sign up for our email newsletter. You can also check out our community that we have where we talk about all kinds of things, both men, women, and other sports, all things related to Indiana. So come join our thriving community today. It would be great to have you if you're not already. Also, a special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logo. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow night to talk IU hoops with you. Until then, keep your elbows in, your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Good job.
You too. Way to go.
Hey, and to the few of you who are out there in the chat mob with us, we really appreciate it. If you can tell, we're still a little nervous. At least I'll speak for myself, a little nervous at times. So it's exciting to do this, and we're excited that you guys are there for us in the chat mob. And like we said, just as best you can, spread the word. And I know it's holiday season. Sometimes it's hard to make time, but we're really enjoying it. We really enjoy the feedback we're getting from you guys. And we hope that we're answering some of the questions you guys have.
At least trying to when Big Ten Plus, shows us players. Yeah, I hope that's a little better tomorrow night. At least, if we can get a score for the first half, that would be neat.
Yeah, we'll see. I like I said, it was rough. I remember I was gone. Where was I at? Oh, I was at the game. I think I was at the Northern Illinois men's game when everybody seemed to be complaining on Twitter about the broadcast because that was on BTN Plus. But I was at the game, so I had no reference to it because my son and I were actually there that game. So,
well, yesterday's was worse than that, and I thought the Northern Illinois one was really bad. So.
Now, was there something at the beginning? I didn't watch the game live, but was there some kind of delay or like a half hour?
The shot clocks weren't working. Yeah, the shot clocks weren't working, and they said they weren't going to start the game until the shot clocks are working, and they actually did call in somebody to service them. They thought they had it working, and then it was like another 10-minute delay after that. So, yeah, I think it was about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, so that was just weird. Maybe that messed with BTN.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we can say that. That's cute. Yeah. I don't think there's any excuse for them. So cool. All right. Anyway. Anything else? Ready to go back and do this again tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll go back and do it again tomorrow. And then I didn't look ahead at the schedules. I need to do that tonight and know who we got coming up. I think there's a game over Christmas over Christmas break.
Yeah, there is. They come fast and furious. So they play tomorrow night on Tuesday the 21st, and then they play again Thursday already on the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Thursday the 23rd, I'm actually going to be driving back to Indiana to visit my mom and the rest of my family. So that game I won't be able to. I don't even know if I'll be able to watch it. So
yeah, I might try and do something. Maybe I'll do a quickie if I can. I'll watch it and do a quickie. And
yeah, that's against Southern Illinois, also on Big Ten Plus.
Yeah,
and then back to Big Ten play on the 30th against Rutgers. And then our big one for sure on January 2nd against Maryland.
And that game on the 30th, I believe, is on FS1.
It is. Fox Sports 1 for Rutgers, and then January 2nd, Maryland. That won't be on ESPN2. Yes, so for all of my fellow YouTube TV watchers, we're very happy that they got ESPN back on and only had one day without it.
So they did. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, their contract ran out Friday at midnight with Disney. So all of the Disney and ABC and ESPN channels and stuff were gone pretty much all of Saturday. And then they came to an agreement, I think, late Saturday night. So they restored everything for the most part on Sunday. So
yeah, I have Hulu Plus Live. And I've had it for about a little over 2 years now, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I've lost track. But the way, does YouTube have the same issue? Like Hulu lags. I mean, I'm usually about 20 to 30 seconds behind the real-time action.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer. I did have Hulu last year, and then we've switched for a number of reasons. One, we went to AT&T TV so we could get Marquee Network.
Oh, well, I kind of got around that. I won't say it on here how we got around it, but
and then after
my wife's a huge Cub fan, so she was about ready to go have a meltdown when she couldn't watch the Cubs.
Oh, I know it. That was not. Yeah, so that was unfortunate that AT&T TV, because Hulu was fine. AT&T was terrible. Like I just do not understand how they have any customers with their interface that they have and lack of whatever. And then I switched to YouTube TV, and I have to say, from an interface between the three of them, I like them the best.
Yeah.
I think they have the best interface between the three. So
and Quang kind of points out here, he's right. I do know that Hulu is owned by the primary owner is Disney, so I know that. But there was something about YouTube TV. I think I had a Fire Stick at the time when I first started streaming, and they were in this, Amazon and YouTube were in a dispute, so I couldn't even get YouTube on my Fire Stick at the time.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, hey, hope you had a good one over the weekend. I know you were doing something on Saturday.
Yeah, we had my husband's Christmas, so we went over to his mom's, and it was great. We did a white elephant exchange, and this year we did it all with alcohol, so that was great.
Must be all adults then.
Yes, it is now. All the grandchildren, for the most part, are all 21 and over. There's only 2 of them, I think, that are under 21, and they still get their own gifts, from godmothers and godfathers and stuff. So they did their own, open their own gifts. And then, then the adults, we did a white elephant. So it was a lot of fun this time. So yeah.
All right. That's cool. Good. Well, cool. And so we'll see you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night. And Ari, I know, still in the chat. I'll let him, I'll get this uploaded and send it to you. And that way we can get it posted for us.
Yeah, sounds great.
I want to thank Ari for doing a lot of our production work.
Yeah, keeping us on track here, Ari. So thanks for that.
Yep. So
Jeff, get some rest.
Hey, what's the phrase from? That's it. That's done. That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. No more questions. See you guys.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye.